Well, something's really been on my mind this week. I've had a couple of people that are close friends of mine that have come and spoken to me quite openly and mentioned that they're struggling a little bit more recently with their mental health. And I want to be really careful here. I'm not going to share their stories. First and foremost, it's not my story to tell. It's somebody else's story. But there was a phrase that kept coming up in these conversations, and it's really kind of sat with me throughout the week. And I just want to talk a little bit more about that. And that's the phrase, I know I should trust God more, but. That but. I keep coming back to that but. Because what I hear underneath is somebody who is already struggling and then feeling guilty for struggling as well. Like their anxiety is somehow a failure of their faith. Like if they just prayed harder, if they trusted more, if they believed with enough conviction, then it would lift. And today I really want to push back on that. Because I think if we're not careful, that version of faith can actually make things worse. I want to start by telling you something that you may not know about me, and that's going back to 2021 when it was my 30th birthday. And I had gone away for the weekend to the Cotswolds with Grace, and while I was out there, it was a time of celebration. But actually, after having had a really busy few months working, it was also a time of rest. And what happened when I stopped is I effectively had a breakdown. I've been massively overworking myself, trying to do several jobs at once, trying to carry everything myself, and it had built into a real crushing anxiety that I kept putting aside, kept thinking, well, I'll deal with it later. And when I stopped, when I actually went away and didn't work for a couple of days, my body and my brain took the opportunity to say, well, we're going to deal with it now. And I hadn't told anybody before about what I was going through. I hadn't asked for help. I just kept going. And so as I started to share what was going on, it got to the stage where I wasn't able to leave my house as easily as I wanted to go to. I wasn't able to go to work as much as I wanted to. I had to start sharing with people the truth of what I was going through. And people offered to pray for me, and I'm genuinely so grateful for the night that it happened, the people that sat up and prayed with me on the phone. I genuinely am grateful for that, and I want to be really clear about that the prayer meant a lot. The people that took the time to answer the phone, to listen to me, that meant a lot. But for me, in that moment, if I'm being honest, prayer didn't resolve everything. It felt like it wasn't enough on its own. What actually turned the corner was making the decision to go and to speak to professionals and to get proper help for what it was that I was going through. And I've thought about that a lot since, because now in my new role as Grace and I plant Buckingham Vineyard, as we become pastors, as we start to lead people closer towards Christ, as we hear more stories of people that are going through difficult times, then we have to be sure of where we guide people. And to be clear, I absolutely believe in the power of prayer. I believe that God heals. I've seen it for myself. I've witnessed it myself. I've had healings myself. But I'm also standing here telling you that prayer alone doesn't always fix everything. And it's really important that we hold on to that. There's a story in the Old Testament that I think is one of the most human moments in the entire Bible. A prophet called Elijah has just had what should have been his greatest triumph. He's been completely vindicated, a dramatic public moment where everything he'd staked his faith on came through. And then almost immediately afterwards, he receives one threatening message and he completely falls apart. He runs into the wilderness, he sits under a tree, and he asks God to let him die. I've had enough, he said. Take my life. And God's response isn't a whole long sermon to him. It's not trust me more. It's not a rebuke. But an angel turns up with food and water. And the angel says, get up and eat. The journey is too much for you. He rests. He eats. The angel comes back. Get up and eat because the journey is too much for you. Again, practical, human, physical. And only after that, after the rest, after the food, after the basic human needs are met, does God gently ask, what are you doing here, Elijah? Not as a rebuke, but as an invitation. Tell me what's wrong. Say it out loud to me. The fact is that the God that I know doesn't skip past the human stuff to get to the spiritual stuff. He very often deals with the human stuff as well. Here's what I want to say with anyone who is sitting in that position of, I know I should trust God more, but. Yes, trust God. Trust him with everything. He won't let you down. He'll walk on the journey with you. And don't let that stop you putting things in place yourself as well, the right things in place. Because here's what I believe. God heals. As I say, I've seen it. It absolutely happens. But God also provides. And sometimes the way that God provides for us is by providing the right doctor, the right therapist, the right medication, the right friend who happens to know exactly what it is you need in that moment. Going to get help is not a failure of your faith. It might actually be your faith being put into action, trusting that God can work through the people and the resources that he's put in your path. Notice that the angel didn't tell Elijah to pray harder. The angel brought him a meal and told him to rest. And one more thing, and maybe the most important bit. Elijah's crash happened in part because he'd been carrying everything alone. Sound familiar? My breakdown at 30 happened because I allowed myself to carry most things alone. The people who came to me this week and that I've been catching up with are struggling because they feel like they're carrying things alone. There is something in us, and maybe it's a really dangerous thing within us, that says that we should be able to cope on our own. That needing people is weakness, that asking for help is a form of failure. It isn't. It's the opposite of failure. God doesn't promise us an easy road. Faith is not a guarantee that life is going to get simpler or that hard things stop coming or that everything's going to go well. But what he does promise us is his presence. God promises to walk next to us, to be company on the walk. The thing Elijah needed most wasn't a miracle. It was somebody to sit under the tree with him, to say, I see you. Get up. Eat something. You're not alone. So if you're struggling with your mental health, please don't white knuckle this alone. Talk to someone. Speak to your GP, speak to a friend, find a therapist. Lean on your community around you. And yes, pray. But let prayer be the beginning of reaching out, not just a reason to avoid it. The journey might feel like it's too much for you right now, and that's not a spiritual failure. That's being human. And that's where God meets us. Right there, just under the tree.